Okay. Alrighty. And get this guy in presentation mode. Okay, can everyone see my screen? Assuming that's
yes, we can see it.
Perfect, great. So wonderful to have everybody here. Really excited for the session today. Building Back Better Means Circular. I'll be moderating the session. My name is Julie Chrysler, and I'm a part of the Yunus Environment Hub. And I'm joined today by Christina Yeager, the co-founder and managing director of Yunus Environment Hub, along with Mbrose, who's another one of our colleagues in Kenya, and Louisa and Madhvi, who have been participants in our program this week. So really excited to have everyone here today. All right, just a quick overview of the agenda. So we have an hour session today and very interactive. So please do ask questions in the chat. We also have our colleague Bramwell who will be helping to take those questions. We can take them throughout or at the end, whatever you prefer. So we'll start off with an overview of the Yunus Environment Hub, and then we'll get into a roundtable with the Build Back Better participants. So again, we have Louisa and Madhvi here today who will share their experience throughout the program, which actually just ended a half an hour ago. So fresh off of the first training. Then we'll go into a little overview of the circular economy to make sure that everyone is on the same page and understand the principles behind the circular economy. Go through any questions that we haven't answered throughout the way, and then also let you know how you can get involved in the Yunus Environment Hub programs. So I am going to hand it over to Christina to tell more about the Environment Hub.
Thanks so much, Julie, and hi, everyone. Great pleasure to meet you all. Thanks for joining the session today. And it's my pleasure to tell you a bit more about who we are and what we are doing. So for the ones who haven't heard of Yunus Environment Hub yet, we are a global social business network developing solutions for the environmental crisis. And our core vision, you can go to the next slide already, is to contribute to Professor Muhammad Yunus' vision of a world of 3 zeros. And with 3 zeros, we refer to zero poverty, zero unemployment, and zero net carbon emissions. And the way how we do this, our mission is basically designing, implementing social business-based solutions, addressing environmental and social challenges that create opportunities all along the value chain, which means basically that we either support social business entrepreneurs all around the world that already have an existing solutions to a problem in the environmental field, or we also go and collaborate with others and build ecosystems so that in places where those social business solutions do not exist yet, will be created where a new ground for those ideas can be seeded. And if we go to the next slide, we can see the areas in which we are working in. And today you will learn more in depth about one of our programs that is forming part of the first bucket, which is the transition from a linear to a circular economy. Basically an economy where we design out the concept of waste and where all of the materials are circulating and where our economy becomes regenerative. And all of these solutions and this support that we as Yunus Environment Hub can provide is based on over 40 years of experience of the entire Grameen network that exists, that Professor Yunus and many other amazing people, men and women, have pioneered in Bangladesh and around the world. And next slide, please. To give you an idea of the pillars of our work, we basically have 4 program components. The first one are incubation and acceleration programs. And again, today, the program that will be presented is one of the acceleration programs where we aim to constantly grow a pool of social business entrepreneurs that focus on environmental issues. Then the second component are venture building programs. as mentioned before, conducting feasibility studies, identifying problems and ideating solutions for it, but also the ecosystem, building support networks for new ventures. And then thirdly, we also provide consulting and policy advisory services, and finally, also education and training programs. Our work, if you go to the next slide, is international. We have here a selection of our partners that come from various sectors and industries and backgrounds. And our organization is headquartered in Germany. And then we have country offices in Asia, Latin America, and Asia, in Africa. And Kenya is the one where we are situated on the African continent. And yeah, with that, I pass back to Julie and wish you a great rest of the session to learn more about the Build Back Better program. Thank you very much.
Fantastic, thanks, Christina. And before we dive into talking to two of our participants and also with Ambrose, who have been in the training this week, I wanted to give you a brief overview about the Build Back Better program. So the Build Back Better program really aims to support 25 social businesses in Kenya to come back after the COVID pandemic. So these are businesses that have been around for at least 2 years. They have been based in Kenya, and they're working in our core sectors that we were looking to work within this cohort, which I'll go into in just a minute. And really, we're helping them to harness the advantage of the circular economy to come back in a more resilient and sustainable way. So throughout a consultancy framework and through training and coaching, as well as masterclasses and peer-to-peer engagement, as well as preparing them for investor readiness through a pitch event in November, we'll be working with these businesses throughout the next 10 months up until March of 2023. And again, they just went through their first training in this 3-day session in Nairobi, and they'll be working on specific goals with the coach when they go through a personalized coaching with those individuals, and they'll be working with them hands-on to really become more resilient and circular. So they'll be defining their key impact metrics to report on their progress. They'll be working on social business model canvas, and then they will be really getting ready to pitch their needs to investors this November. So the next slide shows some of the sectors that we have been focused on. So hospitality and tourism, manufacturing and processing, agribusiness value chain, and waste management and basic services. And really excited to have 50% of the participants who are female in this cohort. So it's great to also to see Luis and Madvi here today to share more about their businesses and their experience. Just a quick overview about the team. So it's not just us who are on the call here today. So you've met Christina. Luis is also, I think, joining in virtually here today. Bramwell is also in the chat and helping to manage any questions that you might have as we're going, and myself. So we're part of the global team. And then we have Leonard, Ambrose, Nefat, and Collins, who are part of the team in Kenya that will be working hands-on with the businesses. And Ambrose is here today with us to share a bit more from his perspective as well about the program. And he and Nefat will be working as coaches and going out, as I mentioned before, and working individually with the different businesses to work towards those goals that they've outlined through the first training. So I want to kick it off and give the floor over to our founders. So let's start with Luisa. If you can give us a brief overview about the business that you're running and the social challenge that you are trying to combat. Hand it over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Julie. So I'm Luisa Gavesha, and I'm the founder of Bottle Logistics East Africa Limited, where we pioneer change and innovation in the glass recycling industry by recovering industrial and post-consumer glass waste, both for recycling and reuse. We have 3 products. The first product is a glass cullet, where once we recover the glass waste, we crush it into glass cullet. That is a raw material used by local glass manufacturing companies in the production of new glass bottles and jars. Our second product are the reusable glass bottles. We work with the local food and beverage companies to recover back their reusable glass bottles. We undertake for them first stage washing and supply back to them clean and ready to use glass bottles. We have the third product that is still in the pilot stage. That's a glass aggregate where we are working with Lafarge Industries to just come up with glass aggregate that can be used in concrete constructions as well as cabros. Some of the issues we're trying to solve, environmental and social issues we're trying to solve. One is that we're diverting glass waste from the environment, from the oceans, back to recycling. Secondly, we are creating employment for the youth and for the women. Currently, we've employed 83 youth and men, women, and we've employed 83 people, of which 66 are women and over 50% are youth. Again, we're also providing indirect employment on our value chain as we are working with over 33 small-scale collectors who go around collecting the glass waste and they supply it to us. Thank you.
Fantastic. Great to see you're still energetic after the busy week. Bramwell, if you could pop in the URL for Bottle Logistics into the chat so people can take a look at the company if they're interested, that would be fantastic. Thanks so much, Luisa. All right, Madhvi, over to you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Madhvi. I'm the founder of Padmad. Padmad is an initiative. We're based in Kenya at the moment, and we're committed to ending period poverty. We have, through product development, education empowerment, and sustainability, we actually work on a few pillars. One is education. And the reason why we started this was actually we found out that 65% of the menstruators in Kenya cannot afford sanitary pads or sanitary wear, and they use substitutes like mattresses and newspapers, etc. And consequently, 4.9 days a month are missed by secondary school girls. So in which case, we started working on a product, but also we work on these pillars. So education being key, and our vision was to make sure that all schoolgirls could carry on going through education. We also educate. We have content from MHM, which is menstrual health management, and sexual and reproductive health rights. And so we educate boys, girls, community members, chiefs, etc., teachers on menstrual health, which includes infections and hygiene, etc., etc. The other pillar we work with is empowerment and employment. We employ marginalized women, so that means they are either widows, sexually abused, or HIV patients. Well, and recently we've opened a factory in the maximum security prison in Nairobi, which is one of the biggest prisons in Kenya. And the idea is to empower the women who are inmates at the present time by giving them skill and capital so that they don't reoffend. Another pillar we work with is economy. Basically, we are producing products which are long-lasting so that the family has more capital to use on other products that they may need for daily, day-to-day sustenance. We are very, very big on the environmental. So, by statistics, it takes 500 to 800 years for a disposable pad to decompose. It is also, disposable pads also contain dioxin, which is sometimes can be harmful, cause skin irritations, etc. So how we are helping the environment is we have created a product which is 100% biodegradable. It's made of natural products. It's also made in Kenya, resourced in Kenya, and the labor is Kenya, so we comply with the Build Kenya, Buy Kenya. So for every one person who switches to reusable, they can save up to 11,000 pads from going into the landfill. So far we have helped 29,000 beneficiaries, which eventually means and translates to over 300 million pads being saved from going into the landfill. We also work on health. I have a medical background, so we make sure that the sanitary products are treated as such with utmost care in terms of avoiding of secondary infections and just maintenance of hygiene even when the menstruators are off their cycle. And finally, we work on sustainability. So apart from having our own hubs, we partner with other companies who have their own tailoring hubs. And so when there's an inmate who comes out of, who's trained and comes out of a prison, for example, she will be rehoused in another hub where she can carry on earning the money. That's all. But we also work on education in terms of removing cultural boundaries and understanding the taboos and trying to combat that wherever we go in terms of education. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for sharing. It's great to see the hard numbers behind this as well. I think it's helpful to show the impact behind it. Great. Thanks for both of you for sharing the overview of your businesses. So as I was saying before, it's been a busy week. Mbrose, hopefully you still have energy left after the last few days. These are just two of the images of the sessions that have been going on since Tuesday. We had businesses come, I didn't mention this before, but they came from all over Kenya. So not just Nairobi-based businesses, but we had them coming all the way from Mombasa, all the way across all corners of the country to join in this in-person training, and then they will go into those individual coaching sessions. But Ambrose, maybe you can share a little bit more about your role in the Build Back Better program and what happened over the last 3 days.
Yeah. Thank you, Julie, for organizing this wonderful session. I'm sure I still have some little energy left in me, so I'll try to match your levels of energy and see how we progress so far. But yeah, it's been an interesting 3 days. But first, before I jump to that, allow me to share a little bit about my role as a social business consultant with the Build Back Better program. So essentially, my role is to basically work with a few of the 25 social businesses. And in this case, I'm working with 12 social businesses to guide them in terms of unlocking their next level of growth. And by this, what I mean is being their coach or guiding them through the different phases and processes of decision-making or of implementing their growth blueprint. Number two is providing a bit of advisory opinion or advisory services to some of these businesses as per the business needs, and providing training, especially when we come to these sessions where we have all the businesses come together. So I'm able to provide a bit of training on their models or a bit about issues and areas around strategic matters. So for the past 3 days, what we have been doing essentially is what we would call a market analysis, or doing a scope of the status of the business currently as it is. And this, we've been trying to do this by covering some of the strategic topics or areas of a business that you need to have clarity in for you to be able to develop a very robust growth blueprint that will guide you on some of the milestones that you need or require to achieve in the next 1 year. So with a team of trainers, we've been able to heavily cover training around market analysis, trying to understand what's the competition scope for each of the businesses that we have, what are the opportunities and the gaps that exist within their industry or their market that they are able to pursue and they are able to maximize on. The other bit has been to do an analysis of the circular economy and the issues around circularity for the different businesses, so that the founders are able to understand how is my business looking when it comes to the issues around circularity, and what opportunities do they exist that will help me to build a much more circular business model that will ensure that my business is much more sustainable as they try to work their way up from the effects of COVID-19. And today, which was our final day, a heavy discussion was around trying to have clarity on your business model, on your value proposition, and also achieving clarity on the financial aspects of your business. So the financial aspect is a heavy discussion around costing and how you go about the costing of your products. A heavy discussion around taxation, because as you rightly know, most of the small and growing businesses have a huge challenge when it comes to understanding taxation and understanding how to maneuver the interaction and the relationship between the business and the taxman. So that's a general overview of the conversations we've been having. And all these are geared towards now helping the founders to have a 360-degree understanding of the challenges they have as a business, the strength that they have, how the market or the industry looks and identifying opportunities that now they can maximize on so that they can pursue those opportunities and see how to place themselves in a better place in the next 10 or 12 months. Thank you.
Fantastic, thanks for sharing. And also the hard work that both you and Nefat did prior to the training to really do a needs assessment on the businesses to ensure that the content was tailored to their needs of the group. So I think that that's also trying to be agile and trying to cater towards the needs of the businesses. And hopefully we were successful in doing that and helping everyone to upskill on those different topics that you were mentioning. So thanks very much for that. I want to throw it back to Louisa and to Madhvi to maybe get a highlight of the week for you. Want to start maybe with Madhvi this time? Just share one highlight or one takeaway that you have.
So yeah, thank you. I actually had a few takeaways.
That's great.
I hadn't come with any expectations, but what really helped me, and I think I'm going to go back and get a chance to understand deeply, kind of reflect and be very intentional about my direction now, is how to harness the circular economy. So as far as I and the business is concerned, we are already part of it, but how we can actually improve on it. And that's been really, really good for us to set new milestones and, to just kind of recap on things like PESTEL and SWOT analysis, etc., so that I realized that our limitation as just a founder would be, one point of view, but now because it was so well organized with so many other viewpoints, I realized that we may need to recheck, and it's kind of nice to get the benchmarks set again, so that it gives us an opportunity when we have our coaching sessions on one-to-one to find out what other opportunities there are. For me, it was very beneficial.
Fantastic, thanks for sharing. Louisa?
Yeah, for me, this was a very engaging week, very interesting, because I was able to focus on our business model, where we were able to identify gaps as well as opportunities that can actually make us more innovative, competitive, or sustainable in the marketplace, and more importantly, just to reduce our risk of failure in the marketplace. Again, we were also able to just review our value chain end to end and identify any opportunities to make our business more circular through recycling, reusing, sharing, regeneration, etc. And we were actually able to identify gaps that we turned into goals, and we are hoping that through the coaching sessions, we'll be able to implement our goals. Again, just reviewing our business environment and coming up with the strengths of the businesses and the weaknesses that you can actually work on was quite a piece during the week.
Good, and hopefully you and Madhvi had a chance to meet each other and chat as well in person.
Yeah, definitely. Also, yeah, of course, synergies were able to meet our other entrepreneurs, and we actually realized that we can actually have a lot of synergies just amongst ourselves.
Perfect, that's great to know. Thanks for sharing. So with all of this talk around the circular economy, I want to make sure that everyone on the call is also aware of what we mean by the circular economy. So maybe Ambrose, you can talk to us a little bit about a high-level view just through 2 slides around what the circular economy is and the training that they received over the last few days.
Okay, sure. Thank you, Julie. How I like to look around the issue around circular economy is to first see how is the world currently operating, and then try to compare that with maybe how does nature operate, and then now see how can we make our processes as human beings way much more better. And if you look, a small example would be, if you look like to a forest, the one in your local community, you will realize what we actually consider as waste, may it fallen leaves, may it what would call the residue that is produced by some of the animals. It's actually a resource to something else within that forest. So it helps to sustain the life within that forest. And this is where the concept of circular economy comes from. So instead of relying on what we have currently, what we call the linear economy, where you pick or utilize the resources at your disposal. You produce a certain product, for use, for very specific use. And then once the product has been used, you basically dispose it as what we call waste. So circular economy is looking at this and saying, how can we sustain our resources of production, which are not infinite, but they are highly finite? How do we sustain them within our production cycle, so that at any given time, what you're calling waste is actually a resource for another product or another service? And so circular economy encompasses three very basic principles, which is the very core element of it is, by designing products, can we design products that actually are helping us to do away with waste? This helps us to ensure that while you're designing product at the design stage, you have the end goal in mind. And the end goal is not waste, but it's actually having the product be used for something else. And that brings us to the second one, which is prolonging or reusing the product. Just ensuring that it stays in the life cycle, in the cycle as long as possible, so that you minimize on the wastage that you are going to produce out of the system. And then once you have ensured there's no waste, once you've prolonged the life of the product, are you able to remanufacture it? Are you able to regenerate it? Are you able to refurbish it? So that you ensure once its use has come into completion, can it become a resource or a raw material for you to produce another product? So in essence, those are the basic principles of the circular economy, ensuring that you prolong the life cycle of a product or a production resource. And what essentially this does to us as a globe or as a generation is it increases the capital within the production system, because you've already reduced the waste you're producing. And essentially what that means is you have increased the pool of resources you have for you to produce the different products, which in essence leads to an increase in capital within our production system.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ambrose. I also think circular economy and just thinking about the African continent is critical, really, with Africa being one of the fastest growing populations. And I was reading that by 2050, there's an estimated 2.5 billion people that will be living on the continent, and a lot of those youth. And also the three biggest cities by 2100, which seems far off, but time goes by very fast. Three of those biggest cities will be on the continent as well. So really important with more and more people, consuming and using products that we can be more circular. Also, I think some of the advantages in Africa is, the way that the continent is set up and being not as an industrialized country as some of the rest of the world is really that they already have there's already a lower ecological footprint. And also there's not a lot of these linear lock-in types of manufacturing and bricks and mortar kind of setup that we can take advantage of some of the innovations on the continent. So I think it's a really interesting time and topic for the continent, and very interesting insights as well on the overall concept. Ambrose. So now going back to Luisa and to Madhvi, we'd love to hear from both of you around how you're incorporating the circular economy principles in your business. We know both of you are doing that, but maybe you can explain a little bit more detail around, maybe Luisa, we can start with bottle logistics.
Yes, for sure. Bottle logistics is actually creating a shift from a linear economy to a circular economy when it comes to managing of glass waste. First of all, as I did mention earlier, we recover glass waste and we process it into glass cullet, which is basically a raw material that will be used by the local glass manufacturing companies to manufacture new glass. So through that, we are able to save mining of natural resources such as sand. Currently, globally, there's a crisis on sand because it's apparently the second most mined natural resource after water. So we are able to save on the sand by just using the glass waste to manufacture new glass. We also encourage reuse of glass bottles, where we work with the local food and beverage companies. We collect for them returnable glass bottles, we wash it for them to be able to repackage and reuse them. Through our activities, we're also able to reduce our carbon footprint, because for every 6 tons of glass recycled, 1 ton of CO2 emission is actually reduced. We also work with third-party or other recyclers who we sell to them our waste, such as plastic cups, aluminum cups, as well as gunny bags. So they're able to just recycle for us that without disposing it off into the environment. Thank you. Julie?
Trying to get off mute there for a second. Thank you. And I was just thinking also, Luisa, if you want to put contact details into the chat, then people could know how to get in touch with you for more information as well, apart from your websites. That might be interesting. Over to Madhvi.
Yeah, so how we feel that we work in circular economy is we innovate, and we've created a long-lasting product, which is a reusable product. We also recycle offcuts from factories, which they would otherwise normally throw away or use as waste. We share facilities and equipment. So, you know, for example, the sewing machines and the workshops, we share them. We also share educational content and information. We educate on basically on the longevity and how to increase the longevity of a product. We reduce plastic pollution by giving a solution from coming away from disposable products, which are 90% plastic. With regards to that, a typical factory which produces disposable pads has a high carbon footprint. So globally, there is a really large, 35 million barrels of oil equivalent of carbon footprint through these factories. And then we also save fuel on logistics, etc., because once a beneficiary has received the pads, we don't need to find ourselves giving them pads again and again, or transporting the pads there, because they are long lasting. And finally, through protecting the human health, especially the secondary infections.
Fantastic. And I would also suggest, if you want to put your contact details into the chat so people can also reach out and directly have your information. Great. So also, if there's questions from the audience, feel free to put those in the chat as well as we're going, and happy to take those along the way. So we have a busy next few months ahead. We're starting here on the left-hand side. We had a virtual kickoff in April where the social businesses got to meet each other in a virtual environment, and we just finished the 3-day in-person training. But maybe Ambrose, you can talk us through what's going to happen over the next few weeks and the next few months for these businesses.
Okay, sure. Thank you, Julie. Yes, I think it's what we've been doing prior to today has been a bit of a warm-up. Now, the real work is starting sometime next week. And essentially, there are 3 levels to the activities that will be happening in the next few months. And the first one is the beginning of what we are calling the individualized or the one-to-one coaching sessions, which are supposed to be around 2 coaching sessions every month. And essentially the focus of these coaching sessions is, number 1, to ensure that the business has a fully developed enterprise development plan that will guide their milestones in the next 9 to 12 months. And this will be done with the help of the coaches or the coach to ensure that all the objectives and the goals that are set out are very clear and are very smart enough in a way that one is able to achieve them, and with very realistic timelines. And then the second level of interaction is on what we are calling virtual masterclasses. And the virtual masterclasses serve 2 reasons. Number 1 is, at the very core of the program, is to ensure that each and every of the 25 social businesses is investor ready by the end of the coaching sessions. And the reason they need to be investor ready is part and parcel of the program is to ensure that the businesses are able to unlock their next level or their next stage of what you'd call maybe investment or what you'd call growth opportunity. And that's why we have a very specific focus on ensuring that they are investor ready. And these sessions will be happening, I think it's once every month for the 25 social businesses, where we just have an online session with investor firms with experts in the field of investment and equity investment or any type of investment, and have conversations on how does a conversation with an investor pan out? What are some of the requirements that you are required to have as a business? How do you initiate the conversation? How do you conclude the conversation? How do you go about the art of negotiation? So trying to cover the basic elements that ensure that each and every founder has the confidence and the ability to fully sell their business. And the second aspect of the virtual masterclasses will be to ensure that there is interaction between the participants. Louisa mentioned about synergy, understanding who I'm able to collaborate with over the past 3 days that we've been having this training or conversation. And this is what we look at unlocking when we are having the virtual masterclasses, to ensure that the participants are able to identify partnership opportunities that they can pursue together, and also help each other to tackle some of the challenges that they might be having or they might be experiencing as participants in this program. And then so that's the second level of activities that will be happening. And then the final one is what we are calling the funders table. And essentially the funders table is a culmination of the different activities that are happening in the program. And the aim of this is to have investors and have the 25 businesses in the same room and have a conversation around the opportunities that exist within the 25 businesses for the investors to take advantage of. So the Funders Roundtable is aimed at providing a platform where the different businesses can pitch or present their businesses to different investor firms with an aim of attracting potential investment or attracting a collaborative or a partnership with one of these participants in the Funders Roundtable. And so these are the different activities that will be happening across the next few months. And I think as Aralyn called, we're still developing the portfolio of the Funders Roundtable. And so if you are a representative of a fund, or you are interested in having a conversation with one of these businesses that is around investment, I think just feel free to reach out to our team, either Padmad or Julie, so that now we are able to pick that conversation and ensure that each and every activity that we are putting our efforts in is geared towards making the businesses way much better, way much resilient, and preparing them for their next stage of growth. Thank you, Julie.
Thanks, Ambrose. You did the plug for me for the pitch day in November, so thank you for that. And if there is anyone, like Ambrose mentioned, we're happy to have that conversation. We're still in the planning phases for that, so happy to speak with you. But it's a good mix of group activities and the trainings and getting everyone together to create those synergies, as well as those virtual connections through the master classes, and also the peer-to-peer exchanges, which are really bottom up. So allowing the social businesses to join groups that are most relevant to their industry or to the goals that they're working towards, and really to build those long-lasting support systems and networks that will go beyond the Build Back Better program. Likewise with the pitch event, it's really helping people to become investor ready that will go beyond the Build Back program, because the pitching, it may be now, it may be again in the future. It's really to gain those skills, how to do a good presentation, what kind of content is the most relevant, and to have that confidence to be able to support you with that. And hopefully we'll be able to upskill the social businesses and help them to create some powerful pitches for November. And again, if anyone is interested, as well as the masterclasses, if anyone is interested in delivering a session or has an interesting topic that you've done in the past that has been supportive for businesses, I'm also happy to get in touch. We're developing that schedule also on an odd need basis. So really, when we come out of these training sessions, to understand where are the gaps, where is there more support needed, and really trying to create those in an agile way so that the sessions are the most relevant really to the participants, because all of you are social business founders, you're entrepreneurs, you have extremely busy schedules. We just took you out for 3 days from your main business functions, and appreciate your time to dedicate to your business and to helping it grow. but we really want to make sure that that hour spent is really the most relevant to our participants and really tailoring the content, not on a preconceived time frame, but really on an as you need basis to create those sessions to make them the most useful. So we're getting to the end of the session here today. So what I wanted to ask Louisa and Padmad to close out the final question would be, if you can tell us a little bit about the goals that you plan to be working on through those coaching and masterclasses and training sessions over the next few months. We'd be happy to hear about that. So maybe Madvi, we can start with you this time.
Yeah, so I have a few goals. One of the economic ones is to scale, and also to scale with the services renders, and also to develop product. We have a certain amount of products right now, but I think what we want to do is develop some more, and also to work with KEBS now that the standards are out, so that we can get a stable source of income. So basically to diversify just from charity to the business side. From the social side, to sensitize and really increase advocacy on reusable and recyclable products, and to gain deeper impact and a broader impact on what we are doing. For the environmental, ours would be to actually quantify the change that is happening as a result of switching from disposable to reusable, how we can actually quantify that within our work. In terms of circularity, there's a few things that we want to do and to change, is to perhaps use more offcuts and to approach more textile factories. And for sharing, I think partnerships and forming more partnerships which are more valuable and long lasting is probably what we're aiming for. Also, well, as we manufacture, we have some waste. So if we can devise ways which we can actually have zero waste, I think that is one of the biggest goals we have. Yeah, that's about it.
About it, but it sounds like a lot. It sounds like you have a busy few months ahead of you. Thanks for sharing. Louisa, same question for you. What goals are you working towards over the next few months?
Yeah, so after this training session, we'll be working on two major goals. One is to launch the new product, glass aggregate, that is used for construction of cabros and concrete by December 2022. In terms of our circularity goal, we focus on having zero waste in our production process within the next 1 year by recycling our water, our waste paper, and incorporating renewable energy in heating our water. Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. Those are both our very ambitious goals, and really looking forward to seeing the progress over the coming months. So that leads us to the end of the session. Are there any questions from the audience that we can take in the chat, or feel free to unmute yourselves for anyone here on the call? Question for Louisa. Feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like to ask the question directly.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Louisa. Kudos for setting this up. One of the questions I wanted to ask you was, how do you deal with what I've heard, sort of these glass cartels, as it were? I mean, have you come across any challenges trying to gather your sort of raw material and things like that?
Of course, sourcing our raw material has actually been our biggest challenge. However, we are currently working with waste collection companies. We are working with small-scale collectors, community-based organizations, youth group, and currently we've just closed a partnership with a company called an association called ABAC, that's the Alcoholic Beverage Association of Kenya, where we'll just be launching collection directly from the source. That's directly mostly from the bars and the restaurants, mostly on-trade accounts, which will actually increase our collection of glass waste, because currently our recycling capacity is around 600 tons in a month, but we're only currently doing 300 tons in a month. So yes, collection has been a big challenge, but we'll address it through the direct collection from the bars. We've also tried, we are currently rolling out consumer bins. Currently we have 2 within Nairobi, that's in Langata Link, Karen and Shamba Cafe in Loresho, where you can consumers can just drop off their glass waste after consumption. We collect that and we also recycle that.
Excellent. I wish you all the best and good luck in your for your future ventures.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question. Any other questions? I think I'd like to give just a quick slot for Brian, who's here from Catalyst Kenya, the Catalyst Kenya chapter. Maybe you can share a little bit about what's going on there. And then we'll get to the question in the chat as well.
Yeah,
thank you so much, Julie.
There's a question on the chat, but Brian, just continue first.
Okay, thank you so much, Julie. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. It's been an honor being in this meeting. I've been a big fan of circular economy and all things to do with building back better. I also am a social entrepreneur, and I'm also in a similar field to Louisa, but very different, not something more or less in terms of biodegradable, compostable products. But what I like the most about what you're doing is that you're pushing the conversation further and trying to tell people about what we need to be speaking about. How do we push the issues to do with environmental degradation, but then now involve them with the things we do every day. So issues to do with sustainable consumption as well. I feel like we really touching on that. But also just to highlight the fact that I'm currently the regional coordinator for Africa at Catalyst 2030. I'm happy to be here. I've been in conversations with Julie before. And I'd also like to open an opportunity for Louisa and everyone else in this call that we have a chapter in Kenya that launched yesterday, had a very beautiful launch. And we would like to invite you all to become members of Catalyst 2030. We are a global organization which is bringing together social innovators and social entrepreneurs in the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. I would also like to invite you to come into our tomorrow session. We have the closing sessions as of tomorrow. Just go to, I'll put everything down on the chat box, but we'd be happy to have everyone coming in and learning more about what we do. I believe this is the best platform for you to also join in, because what we are doing is what you're actually doing. But then you're going to meet people in your space who you can do peer-to-peer learning. You can also engage with them, and you can also build up collaborations, because your space really needs people who can collaborate with. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, and so Catalyst 2030 is like the global organization is the one that organized this Catalyzing Change Week, but then Kenya also has a local chapter. And so fortunately or unfortunately, the training was going on this week, so we couldn't get you guys into that in-person event that took place yesterday. But I think it would be another great opportunity to have your network and to build that network out, and to look for people who can help you with the needs that you're working towards, the goals that you're working towards. So thanks for that, Brian. It's always good to extend your networks. As far as the question in the chat, Luis, are you able to answer a question around Yunus Environment Hub collaboration and partnership with universities? I'm not sure if you're on the road or if you're able to take a question.
Yes.
Oh, perfect.
Sorry, it took me a while to
no worries. You probably weren't being expected to be called out. Great. So Luis is part of our global team and operations lead, and just hoping to have you help out with the question around our collaboration with universities.
Yes. So within the broader Yunus network, we have a very lively collaboration with universities. We have a network of over 100 universities where there are Yunus social business centers that are basically think tanks and competence centers that are working on the social business theory, the link to practice, or helping entrepreneurs to learn about social business practices. And on a broader level, or on a like more other level, we are collaborating a lot with universities to work on specific programs. Here to say we are just launching a program where we support a German-led international consortium of universities to create a new curriculum in agriculture, and we are a practice partner to support on entrepreneurship and social business in agriculture. And then, of course, there are always touch points when it comes to publications, etc. So many touch points. I hope that answered the question.
Maybe I can just briefly add on. We do have a collaboration with the Kenyatta University in Nairobi. And there's another collaboration with Tangasa University. And we have our Social Business Day conference upcoming at the end of June, 27 till the 30th of June. And there will be local events also in Nairobi in collaboration with universities, since 2 days are always dedicated to the academic research on social business. So this will be a great opportunity for everyone here who would like to connect with universities who are collaborating with social business entrepreneurs. I can leave the link to the event also in the chat for you to take a look. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Christina. And you have also the website as far as the Build Back Better program is concerned. We mentioned potential investors, any interest in masterclasses, and also future participants. But apart from the Build Back Better program, we also have our She Stars program, which is kicking off a new cohort. So maybe Bramwell, you can share a little bit more information about that as well before we close out.
Yeah, so can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, so apart from the Build Back Better program in Kenya, we're also having the second program that also I think Christina alluded to. That is the She Academy, where we support 1,500 women or female entrepreneurs to really develop into the field of entrepreneurship and business in terms of capacity building and training, which includes also mentoring. And currently the cohort 1 is training is ongoing, but we have the cohort 2 call for application, which is now up and running. So I'll leave the link on the chat. Anyone interested, or if you know someone who is in the business and will want to join the program, we are currently welcoming applications so that we can support the women in business also on the other side. So thank you very much. Yeah.
Thanks, Bramwell. All right, anything else for the last few minutes? Any other questions or comments? Louisa, Madhvi, any request for the general public? Now's your spot. If not, I would just thank everyone so much for your time, especially for our speakers. I know it's been a very, very busy week for everyone. So thank you for taking the time out. Thank you for all the energy and dedication you've given this week in the training. Thanks also, Christina, for joining as well. I know you're very busy preparing a workshop, and to everyone for joining from your busy schedules. There's a lot of interesting sessions this week, so thank you so much for joining ours. If you have any questions or concerns, I'll also put my email in the chat, so you have that as well, apart from our website there. And I wish everyone a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
All right, have a good day.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.